I need to see your identification. I need to know what you're doing behind that counter right now.
Good evening, officer. I'm Marcus Green. I own this restaurant. Is there a problem I can help you with?
Officer, my grandmother's name was Rosa Green. This restaurant is named after her, but I'm the owner. I've owned Mama Rosa's for 12 years. My business license is right there on the wall behind you if you'd like to verify. I think you're trespassing. I'm standing still. I'm complying.
Officer, I'm an
Hashtag racist cop arrests black man inside his own diner. Gets fired after $500,000 lawsuit. Officer Dennis Harper. Badge number 5291 with 5 years on the Westbrook Police Department. Walked into Mama Rosa's diner on Main Street at 9:15 p.m. on a Friday evening, responding to a 911 call about a suspicious person, reportedly causing a disturbance inside the restaurant. Without asking the dispatcher for any description of the supposed disturbance, without requesting details about what specific behavior was concerning, and without any awareness that the call had come from a disgruntled former employee who'd been fired 2 weeks earlier for repeatedly showing up late and stealing from the cash register, Harper entered the diner already prepared to make an arrest based solely on his assumption that any call involving the word suspicious probably meant someone who didn't belong was causing trouble. When Harper walked through the front door and immediately saw Marcus Green, a 42-year-old black man wearing casual clothes and standing behind the counter near the kitchen entrance speaking with kitchen staff, Harper's biased instincts kicked in instantly, without considering that a man behind the counter might work there, without noticing the framed business license on the wall listing Marcus Green as owner, and without asking a single question about who the man was or what he was doing. Harper decided he'd found his suspect and approached Marcus with his hand already on his service weapon, demanding, "I need to see your identification and I need to know what you're doing behind that counter right now." When Marcus calmly turned around, wiped his hands on a kitchen towel, and replied, "Good evening, officer. I'm Marcus Green. I own this restaurant. Is there a problem I can help you with?" Harper immediately dismissed the explanation as a lie, claimed that the real owner was an Italian woman named Rosa, a complete fabrication. Harper had never been to this diner before and had no knowledge of who owned it, accused Marcus of trespassing and possibly robbing the establishment, and ordered him to come out from behind the counter with his hands visible while other diners watched in shock. Despite Marcus explaining that he had owned Mama Rosa's diner for 12 years, despite Marcus offering to show his business license hanging on the wall just 15 feet away, despite Marcus offering to show his driver's license with the business address listed, and despite 3 customers and 2 employees immediately speaking up to confirm that Marcus was indeed the owner and operator of the restaurant, Harper refused to verify any of this easily confirmable information and instead escalated by grabbing Marcus's arm, spinning him around, and forcing him face first against the counter to apply handcuffs while shouting, "Stop resisting," despite Marcus standing completely still with his hands visible, offering no resistance whatsoever. What Officer Harper didn't know, what his racist assumption that a black man behind a counter must be a criminal rather than the business owner had prevented him from discovering through even 30 seconds of basic investigation, was that Marcus Green was not only the owner of this successful family restaurant that had been a community fixture for over a decade, but was also a respected member of the Westbrook Chamber of Commerce, a local business award winner, a community volunteer who donated thousands of dollars to local charities, and most importantly for Harper's future career prospects, a man whose restaurant security cameras had captured every moment of this encounter from 4 different angles in crystal-clear high-definition video showing Harper's refusal to verify basic facts, his use of excessive force on a compliant business owner, and his arrest of Marcus Green for trespassing in his own restaurant based on nothing more than the racist assumption that a black man behind a restaurant counter must be stealing rather than working. Harper's decision to arrest a restaurant owner inside his own establishment without conducting even the most minimal investigation would result in viral footage reaching 89 million views. Harper's termination within 48 hours of the video's release. Criminal charges for false arrest and deprivation of rights under color of law. A $500,000 settlement paid to Marcus Green. And Harper's permanent addition to the national database of officers fired for misconduct, ensuring he would never work in law enforcement again, while Marcus's story became a powerful example of how racial profiling leads police to see black business owners not as successful entrepreneurs, but as criminals who must be removed from spaces where some officers believe they don't belong. Before we go further, what city or country are you watching from? Drop it in the comments. We love seeing where you're tuning in from. If you believe business owners should be able to work in their own restaurants without being arrested, then like this video and subscribe. Marcus Green had built Mama Rosa's Diner from nothing over the course of 12 years, transforming it from a struggling, failing restaurant he'd purchased for $45,000 into one of the most beloved breakfast and lunch spots in Westbrook, a mid-sized town of about 50,000 residents in the Pacific Northwest. At 42 years old, Marcus was living proof of the American dream. A self-made entrepreneur who had worked 80-hour weeks for years to build a successful business that now employed 14 people, served hundreds of customers daily, and had become a genuine community gathering place where everyone from construction workers to city council members came for coffee, comfort food, and conversation. The name Mama Rosa's came from Marcus's grandmother, Rosa Green, who had raised him after his parents died in a car accident when Marcus was just 8 years old. Rosa had been an incredible cook who dreamed of opening her own restaurant but never had the opportunity. When Marcus bought the failing diner at age 30, using every penny of his savings plus a small business loan, he named it in her honor and used many of her recipes on the menu. Rosa had lived to see the restaurant's success, dining there every Sunday until her death 3 years earlier at age 89. Marcus had poured his heart into the business. He'd renovated the entire space, installed modern kitchen equipment, trained his staff to provide excellent service, and built a reputation for quality food at fair prices with a welcoming atmosphere. The diner had won Best Breakfast in Westbrook 3 years running in the local newspaper's readers' poll. Marcus served on the board of the Westbrook Chamber of Commerce, mentored young entrepreneurs through the local Small Business Development Center, and donated regularly to community causes including the food bank, youth sports programs, and scholarships for local high school students. On this particular Friday evening, Marcus was at the restaurant doing what he did most Friday evenings, helping with the dinner rush, checking in with staff, ensuring everything was running smoothly, and preparing for the busy Saturday morning breakfast crowd. The dinner service had been good. The restaurant was about half full with regular customers enjoying meals and conversation, and Marcus had been in the kitchen discussing weekend prep with his head cook, James, when Officer Dennis Harper walked through the front door. What Marcus didn't know was that Harper was responding to a fraudulent 911 call made by Teresa Sullivan, a former employee Marcus had fired 2 weeks earlier. Teresa had been employed as a server for just 3 months before Marcus terminated her for chronic lateness. She'd been late or no-show for 14 of her last 20 shifts, poor performance, multiple customer complaints, and finally, stealing from the cash register, an incident Marcus had documented with security camera footage showing Teresa pocketing cash from her tips jar that belonged to other servers. Teresa, angry about being fired and believing she'd been treated unfairly despite the documented evidence of her misconduct, had decided to retaliate by calling 911 from a blocked number and reporting a suspicious person causing a disturbance at Mama Rosa's Diner, hoping to create problems for Marcus's business. She gave no description of the supposed suspicious person and hung up before the dispatcher could ask for details. Officer Dennis Harper, 31 years old with 5 years on the Westbrook Police Department, had a troubling record that should have resulted in closer supervision or dismissal, but had instead been allowed to continue. Over 5 years, Harper had received 9 formal complaints. 4 complaints alleging racial profiling, 3 complaints alleging excessive force, 2 complaints alleging false arrest. Of those 9 complaints, 7 had been dismissed by supervisors as unsubstantiated without thorough investigation. The other 2 had resulted in minor discipline, written reprimands with no real consequences. Harper's arrest statistics showed concerning patterns. 68% of his arrests involved people of color despite his patrol area being only 35% minority. His arrest rate for black individuals was 5.2 times higher than for white individuals in the same area, and 41% of his arrests of minorities resulted in dropped charges or acquittals, indicating he was making arrests without sufficient probable cause. When Harper received the dispatch call about a suspicious person at Mama Rosa's Diner, he made no attempt to get additional information. He didn't ask for a description. He didn't ask what the person was doing that was suspicious. He didn't ask if the caller wanted to remain on scene to make a statement. He simply drove to the diner, parked his patrol car out front with the lights on, creating a scene that would alarm customers, and entered the restaurant looking for someone to arrest. Harper walked through the front door and immediately scanned the dining room. He saw 6 occupied tables with customers eating dinner, 2 servers moving between tables, a teenage busboy clearing dishes, and through the service window opening to the kitchen, a black man in casual clothes, jeans and a polo shirt, standing behind the counter near the kitchen entrance. Speaking with kitchen staff, Harper's biased assumptions immediately identified Marcus as his target. Without considering any innocent explanation for why a man might be behind the counter of a restaurant, employee, manager, owner, delivery person, repairman, etc., Harper walked directly toward Marcus with his hand moving to his service weapon. Marcus was mid-conversation with his head cook about weekend inventory when he heard a voice behind him. "I need to see your identification, and I need to know what you're doing behind that counter right now." Marcus turned around and saw a police officer approaching with an aggressive posture. After 12 years of owning a business in this community, Marcus knew most of the local officers who would occasionally stop in for coffee or meals. He didn't recognize this one. Marcus set down the inventory clipboard he'd been holding and approached the counter professionally. "Good evening, officer. I'm Marcus Green. I own this restaurant. Is there a problem I can help you with?" Harper's face showed he didn't believe Marcus. "You own this restaurant? This restaurant is owned by an Italian woman named Rosa. What are you really doing here?" Marcus felt a familiar tightening in his chest, the recognition of racial profiling that black business owners experience more often than most people realize. He kept his voice calm and professional. "Officer, my grandmother's name was Rosa Green. This restaurant is named after her, but I'm the owner. I've owned Mama Rosa's for 12 years. My business license is right there on the wall behind you if you'd like to verify." Marcus gestured to the framed business license hanging on the wall about 15 feet behind Harper, a document that clearly stated, "Westbrook Business License, Mama Rosa's Diner Owner. Marcus Anthony Green, address 412 Main Street, Westbrook." Harper didn't even turn to look at it. "I think you're trespassing. I think you're probably robbing this place. Come out from behind that counter with your hands where I can see them." Several customers had stopped eating and were now watching the confrontation. One of them, a regular customer named Helen Martinez, who'd been eating at Mama Rosa's twice a week for 8 years, spoke up. "Officer, that's Marcus. He owns this restaurant. He's the owner. We all know him." Harper glared at her. "Ma'am, please stay out of this." Another customer, David Chun, a local attorney who often had business lunches at Mama Rosa's, also spoke up. "Officer, I'm an attorney. I can verify that Marcus Green is the registered owner of this establishment. He's on the Chamber of Commerce with me. You can check his ID, check the business license on the wall, or call the city's business licensing office. This is his restaurant." Harper's face reddened. "Sir, if you interfere with this investigation, I'll arrest you too." Marcus, recognizing that the situation was escalating despite his cooperation, tried a different approach. "Officer, I understand you're responding to some kind of call. I'm happy to cooperate. My driver's license is in my wallet in my back pocket. It shows my name, Marcus Green, and my address, which is also the business address for this restaurant. I can show you my business license on the wall. I can show you business bank statements. I can show you anything you need to verify that I own this restaurant. What specifically would help resolve this situation?" Harper had made up his mind that Marcus was lying and that admitting error would be humiliating, so he doubled down instead. "Turn around and put your hands on the counter. You're being detained for investigation of trespassing and possible burglary." "Officer, I haven't committed any crime. I'm standing in my own restaurant. Multiple customers are telling you I'm the owner. My business license is on the wall. What probable cause do you have to detain me?" Harper's hand moved to his handcuffs. "You're refusing to comply with a lawful order. Turn around now or I'm using force." James, the head cook, stepped out of the kitchen. Officer, please, that's Mr. Green. He's the owner. He's my boss. I've worked here for 7 years. This is his restaurant. Lisa, one of the servers, also spoke up. Officer, Marcus owns this place. Everyone knows that. Please, you can check his ID, check the license, ask anyone here. Harper was now surrounded by people contradicting his false narrative. But rather than taking 30 seconds to verify the easily confirmable fact that Marcus owned the restaurant, Harper decided to assert his authority through force. Final warning. Turn around and put your hands on the counter, or I'm placing you under arrest for resisting. Marcus made a decision. He could continue to assert his rights and his status as the restaurant owner, but he'd seen enough videos of police encounters going violently wrong to know that resistance, even verbal, even when completely justified, could result in serious injury or worse. He decided to comply physically while objecting verbally, creating a record of his cooperation for any later legal action. Officer, I'm turning around as you've ordered. I'm placing my hands on the counter. I want to state clearly for the record that I am the owner of this restaurant. I have committed no crime. I have provided no false information, and I believe this detention is unlawful. But I am complying with your commands to avoid escalation. Marcus turned around and placed his hands flat on the counter, his back to Harper. Harper grabbed Marcus's right arm roughly, wrenching it behind his back with more force than necessary. Marcus winced but didn't resist. "Stop resisting," Harper shouted, despite Marcus standing completely still. "I'm not resisting," Marcus said clearly. "I am standing still. I am complying with your commands." Harper forced Marcus's left arm behind his back and applied handcuffs, tightening them beyond necessary to the point of causing pain and restricted blood flow. He then pushed Marcus forward, bending him over the counter in full view of the dining room. Helen Martinez, the regular customer, had pulled out her phone and was recording. "I'm documenting this. Officer, you're arresting the owner in his own restaurant. This is wrong." Harper spun toward her. "Ma'am, put that phone down or you're under arrest for obstruction. You can't arrest someone for recording police in public," David Chan, the attorney, stated firmly. "She has a First Amendment right to document this. I'm also recording. And I'm telling you as an attorney that you're making a serious mistake. That man owns this restaurant. You can verify it in 30 seconds. If you proceed with this arrest, you're exposing yourself and the city to significant liability." Harper had backed himself into a corner. He'd made an assumption, refused to verify basic facts, ignored multiple people correcting him, and now had to either admit he was wrong or continue with an obviously unjustified arrest. His ego chose the latter. "Marcus Green, you're under arrest for criminal trespassing and resisting arrest. You have the right to remain silent." As Harper read Miranda rights to a man who owned the restaurant where he was being arrested, multiple customers were recording on their phones. The restaurant's 4 security cameras were capturing everything from different angles. And Marcus, handcuffed and bent over his own counter, was methodically stating for the record, "I am Marcus Green. I own this restaurant. I have owned Mama Rose's Diner for 12 years. My business license is on the wall behind the officer. I have committed no crime. I have not resisted. I am complying. This arrest is unlawful." Harper walked Marcus out of the restaurant in handcuffs, placed him in the patrol car, and transported him to the Westbrook Police Department for booking. At the station, Marcus repeated his explanation to the booking sergeant. "I own Mama Rose's Diner. Officer Harper arrested me for trespassing in my own restaurant. I'd like to call my attorney." The booking sergeant, recognizing Marcus from the community, the sergeant had eaten at Mama Rose's dozens of times, immediately realized something was very wrong. He called a supervisor. Within 30 minutes, supervisors had verified Marcus's identity, confirmed he owned the restaurant, viewed Harper's body camera footage showing Harper ignoring the business license on the wall and multiple people vouching for Marcus, and made the decision to release Marcus immediately with all charges dropped. A lieutenant apologized to Marcus. "Mr. Green, there's been a terrible mistake. You're free to go. We're very sorry about this." Marcus, exhausted and humiliated, simply nodded. I'll be contacting my attorney. Within an hour of his release, Marcus had called David Chen, the attorney who'd been dining at the restaurant. Chen immediately agreed to represent Marcus in a civil rights lawsuit. The next morning, Chen's law firm filed a comprehensive federal civil rights lawsuit seeking $500,000 in damages for false arrest, unlawful detention, excessive force. The over-tightened handcuffs had left visible injuries on Marcus's wrists. Violation of Fourth Amendment rights, arrest without probable cause. Violation of 14th Amendment rights, selective enforcement based on race. Intentional infliction of emotional distress, loss of business income. The restaurant had to close early that night.